Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this evening's winter weather update. So, a quick hitting snowstorm is going to be moving across the Midwest and especially the Northeast over the next couple of days. So, opening up with the 18Z run of the North American model, our low pressure system is going to bring heavy rain to Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, and southwestern Kentucky by tomorrow morning around 7 a.m. Central Standard Time. And as we go through the day, the rain is going to spread across Kentucky, Tennessee, the Western Carolinas, Northwest Georgia, and severe weather potentially across Alabama. I'll talk about that later. Going to about 4 o'clock Central Time, 5 o'clock Eastern Time, heavy rain, storms spreading into the Appalachia region, into Western Virginia, Southwest West Virginia, and Northern Georgia. And then as we go into the evening, 10 o'clock Central Time, rain across the Ohio Valley, into the parts of Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Virginia, Maryland, the Delmarva. And then as we go into about 1 a.m. Central Time, this is when we're going to get a transition over to snow in portions of central Indiana, northwest Ohio, southern Michigan, and northern Pennsylvania. And as we go through the overnight, by about 4 a.m., it is snowing in Detroit, Indianapolis, northwest Ohio, northern Pennsylvania, maybe some freezing rain in southwest New York State, and waking up 7 a.m. Central Time, 8 a.m. Eastern Time, Sunday morning, seeing moderate to heavy snow across most of Indiana, western Ohio, southeastern Michigan, southwestern New York State, northern Pennsylvania, with rain along the East Coast, and then going into 10 and then noon, here comes snow on the backside across eastern Kentucky, eastern Tennessee, western Virginia, North Carolina, West Virginia, snowing across most of Ohio, much of New York State, northern and central Pennsylvania, and then going into 4 o'clock and 7 o'clock Eastern Time, snow continues in the Appalachian Mountains through Ohio, Pennsylvania, New York, transitioning over to snow, southern Vermont, New Hampshire, and Massachusetts. And then it'll continue snowing through the evening, even overnight, across Ohio, Kentucky, West Virginia, Western Virginia, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, potentially a transition over to snow in New York City, heavy snow in Boston as we go through the overnight, and then our snowstorm will leave as we go into Monday morning. Now, taking a look at snowfall accumulations in the 18Z run of the North American model, going to be seeing a good 2 to 4 inches from areas like Indianapolis through Fort Wayne, Northwest Ohio, around Detroit, and then areas of New York State, Pennsylvania could be seeing a good 2 to 6 inches with a bullseye potentially in southwest New York, northern Pennsylvania of as much as 8 to 12 inches of snow, and then across southern New England, Massachusetts, into Rhode Island, could be seeing a good 3 to 6 inches of snow there as well, including the Boston, Providence areas, and then maybe a dusting to 2 inches in Maryland, Northern Virginia, much of New Jersey, southern Michigan, and then across the Appalachian Mountains in West Virginia, eastern Kentucky, western North Carolina. We're looking at a good 5 to 8 inches of snow there as well in the North American model. And then taking a look at Maine, Maine, you'll be looking at a good 1 to 3 inches of snow with about 4 to 6 inches in southeastern Maine. Now, taking a look at our GFS model, GFS is a lot lighter on the snowfall accumulations, only bringing a dusting to 2 inches across Ohio, pretty much nothing to Indiana or southeastern Michigan, maybe as much as 2 to 4 inches in north central Ohio, 2 to 4 inches in central West Virginia, western Virginia, maybe a dusting in western North Carolina. The GFS is bringing more to central northern Pennsylvania, southern New York, and southeastern New England, with a widespread swath of 2 to 6 inches in these areas, and then maybe a dusting in New York City, much in New Jersey, and maybe out to Cape Cod as well. Looking at Maine, Maine, you're going to be seeing a good 2 to 4 inches of snow as well if the GFS solution pans out. And finally, looking at the European solution is the most aggressive with about 1 to 3 inches as far west as southeastern Illinois, central Indiana, northwestern Ohio, southeastern Michigan, and then dusting even across most of Kentucky, and then across West Virginia in the mountains, a good 2 to 5 inches, western North Carolina, 2 to 5 inches. And then as we go to the northeast in the European model, a lot heavier snowfall accumulations than the GFS, widespread 3 to 8 inches across Pennsylvania, New York State, northern New Jersey, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Vermont, New Hampshire, and about 2 to 6 inches across Maine. And we could be seeing isolated locations as much as a foot of snow in some of these areas if the European model solution pans out. So a brief look at the severe weather for this evening and tomorrow. We have a marginal risk of severe weather this evening across far southeast Texas, much of Louisiana, into central Mississippi in the dark green. This includes a 2% chance of tornadoes touching down within 25 miles of a location across central, southern, and southeastern Louisiana and southwestern Mississippi, including New Orleans. Be on guard for a couple isolated tornado spin-ups this evening. Damaging winds threat is at 5% chance within 25 miles of a location in the same areas. And then hail threat is also at 5% for quarter-size hail or larger within 25 miles of a location across southeast Texas, most of southeastern and central Louisiana, and southwestern Mississippi this evening. And looking at tomorrow's severe weather threat, we actually have a slight risk tomorrow across the western Florida panhandle and much of southern through central, even northern Alabama in the yellow, with a marginal risk from southeast Louisiana, southeast Mississippi, the rest of Alabama, the central Florida panhandle, central northwest Georgia, southeastern Tennessee, southwestern North Carolina, western South Carolina. And unfortunately, this is driven by a 5% tornado threat across Alabama and western Florida, including Mobile, Alabama, Pensacola, Florida, Montgomery, and Birmingham, Alabama. So make sure you're on guard for some scattered tornadoes if you live in the Brown area tomorrow. 2% tornado risk in the green includes New Orleans, Chattanooga, Tennessee, Atlanta, Columbus, Georgia, Dothan, Alabama, Charlotte, North Carolina, and just west of Columbia. Make sure you're on guard for an isolated tornado spin-up if you live in those areas tomorrow. 15% chance of damaging winds within 25 miles of a location in coastal southern Alabama and western Florida, and then 5% chance in the Brown area tomorrow. And hail is not going to be much of a problem either, with only a 5% chance of quarter-size hail or larger within 25 miles of a location across central northern Alabama. So thanks for watching this evening's weather update. Make sure you're preparing for a quick burst of snow if you live across the Ohio Valley and Northeast this evening, overnight, and tomorrow. Please stay safe and have a wonderful evening, my friends.